What is up, Tech Heart? So, it's 2025, and the last time we did an Arch Linux installation video was 2 years ago. So, we're going to go on a trip today. We're going to install Arch Linux. You can use any computer that you want to, but I suggest a ThinkPad, rockstars. And you're also going to need a USB stick. I have a 64 gigabits, but even a 8 gigabit, maybe even a 4 gigabit will be okay for the Arch installation ISO. I'm going to show you how to burn this stick on macOS, Windows, and even Linux. And then we'll get Arch Linux installed, and we'll take care of everything from customization to security to a desktop environment. Should we pick Hyperland or something else? Let's jump on in and get this party started! Okay, rockstars, the very first thing that we have to do is burn an Arch Linux installation USB. As stated, I'm going to show you that on Windows, macOS, and Linux. We'll open up a web browser and go to rufus.ie. Rufus is an application that will allow us to burn ISOs to a USB. So let's just scroll down and we're going to download Rufus. If you download this first exe file, it will actually install Rufus to your system. But I like to use the portable, and then it doesn't require an installation. So if you want to install it all the way, use the first exe file, but I'm going to grab the portable. Now, we'll go to the Arch Linux website, actually the Arch Linux /download website. We'll scroll all the way down and we'll pick a repo that's close to us. I've already downloaded it, so I won't click here. Okay, now that we have both of those, close that window and we can open up our file browser and go over to downloads. Now you see I have Rufus 4.7 and the Arch Linux ISO. So we'll just double click on Rufus, give it access. I don't need it to check for updates. And once that's opened up, you should see your USB stick. If not, just go ahead and select your USB stick, no name. We won't change anything here because it's already set for an ISO image. Just move your cursor over and click the select button. And now we'll select that Arch Linux ISO that we downloaded. Boom! Just like that, we can come down here and click start. It'll ask us which mode we want to burn it in, and we'll just keep it on the recommended ISO image mode and click OK. And then it'll give us a warning about syslinux, that it needs to download a couple files. So we'll click yes. And then it'll warn us and click OK and let Rufus finish. Let's fly over and see how to do the same on macOS and Linux. All right, on macOS, the process will be very similar, but we'll use a different software. Balena Etcher. You can go to etcher.balena.io. You can click download Etcher. And we're going to grab it for Mac OS. I need the ARM64 because I'm on Apple Silicon. And look at that, you could even get a Windows copy, but Rufus is preferred on Windows. So we'll come down to our downloads and we'll see the Balena Etcher DMG file. We'll tap it, we'll drag Balena over to our applications, and Bob's your uncle. Now we have Balena. Eject it. And now, if I open up my applications folder, you can select balenaetcher.app. We'll have to allow it for the first time. Same as before, we'll have to go download Arch. Oh, I am going to show this actually because I forgot this in the Windows one. I'm going to click on Rackspace. The file that you want is the first one, Arch Linux-2025-04.01 for x8664.iso. Click that, and in Balena Etcher, we'll select that ISO. It'll be in our downloads, just like that. I'll have to insert my USB stick again. There you go. And once it's recognized, you can do select target and make sure you select the right USB stick. Mine is a Kingston Data Traveler. So just like that, you can say select and click flash. And there you go. It'll start flashing. When this is over, you've got a working install stick, baby. When it gets to the validating point, you can let this finish, or you can most safely skip it. macOS won't be able to read that USB stick because it's Linux. So we'll just click eject. And then you can take your USB, baby. Now let's go see how to burn it in Linux. Okay, rockstars, now let's get going on Linux. We could download Balena Etcher and burn our ISO that way. However, let's hack around in the terminal. We don't need any extra software in Linux. I'll move into my downloads folder and I'll just show you that I already have the Arch Linux ISO. First off, let's do an ls block. We'll see our different drives that we have installed. My system drive is this NVMe 0 and 1. That's what Debian Linux is installed on. Now, let's insert our USB stick. There it is, we see it popped up. Now let's do another ls block, and we'll notice a new one here, SDA. Now for you, this may be different. That's why we ran the first ls block command, so you can make sure we know exactly what our USB stick is, so you don't overwrite a different drive. For me, it's SDA. Now let's do our command that will burn our ISO. We're gonna run as sudo, which means we're the administrator. The command is dd, and then we'll do if equals, which means the in file. And the in file for us is our ISO. And then OF equals, that's the output file, and we want to write it to our USB stick, so we'll do /dev/SDA. We're going to add on some more options. We'll do BS equals 4M. That sets our block size to 4 megabytes. Bigger blocks equals faster writing. We'll do status equals progress. And that just shows us the live progress. And last, we'll do oflag equals sync. And that reduces caching issues. It just ensures a fully written USB stick. I'll throw that command on screen too. And once you have it, you can just press enter, give it your password, and DD will begin copying your USB stick. And you just wait for it like the others. Bob's your uncle, baby. You'll know that it's finished when you get kicked back out to the command prompt. And then if we do an ls block again, we'll see that our USB stick is written. We can do an ls/media, your username, and arch, and there it is. It's burned. You can do a sudo umount, which is unmount on that /media, and then it auto-filled for me. And now you can remove your USB stick. You're ready to go, baby. Let's get to installing Arch. Booyah! All right, you rock stars. Now you have your USB stick burned, and we're ready to install Arch. As I said earlier, I have the ThinkPad I'm going to throw it on. So let me find a USB port. Throw that puppy in there. Now, on different types of computers, there's a different button to get into the BIOS. I already know that my button is the Enter key, but you might have to search Google, or better yet, DuckDuckGo, baby, and find out your model of computer's BIOS button. When I boot this, I'm going to push Enter to get into the BIOS, and then I think it's F12 to be able to select the USB stick. Let me show you that. So my computer will turn on, and I'll spam the Enter button. There we go. And that should bring up this other menu. And then I can press F12. Boom! And after a couple minutes, I can go down and I'm selecting my USB stick. I guess I'll try to show it. I don't know how good it'll come out on this video, but I'm trying. So now I'm going to boot into this Arch Linux by pressing Enter, and that's the Arch Linux installer booting up, and I'll catch you on the screen capture. Alright, rock stars, now we're ready to install this puppy. First things first, I'm going to change the console font so it's easier for y'all to read. There you go, that should make it better. As we go through, I'm always going to clear the screen so it's nice and easy to know what we're working on. And first things up is to set the locale. We'll do a locale ctl list-keymaps, and then we'll use the bar, and we'll do grep, and enter your country name, like if it's France, but for me, it's US. This will list all the different locales, and then we'll do load keys and your country. For me, it's load keys US. Now, if you're on Ethernet, you'll already have a network. To test, we can do a ping 8.8.8.8, and for me, since I'm on a laptop, the network is unreachable. I need to be able to use my Wi-Fi. We can see all the different networks we have. If we do IPA, and I can see that I'll need to set up WLAN 0. The ENP0S ... is my Ethernet that I'm not using. So I'll need to remember WLAN 0. The command that we'll use to connect to Wi-Fi is IWCTL. And then you'll do -- passphrase and enter your Wi-Fi's password. I'll hide mine on screen. Then station WLAN 0 for me. You'll have to select yours. Then connect and enter your Wi-Fi's name. I'm going to clear the screen just so I can not have my password on there. And now we can run that same ping 8.8.8.8. And yeah, Bob's your uncle. We're connected to the internet, baby! In order to have the fastest repos, we're going to install Reflector before we do anything. So we'll do pacman-sy reflector. We'll use Reflector and we'll do --country US or yours --age 12, and we're going to do --latest 10 --protocol HTTPS, and then --save to /etc. Oops, pacman.d/mirror list. Press enter, and now if we do a cat of that mirror list, we'll see that it's a mirror list generated by Reflector. Boom! Now we have the fastest mirrors. Okay, let's get down to business. Let's enter an LS block so that we can see the setup of our hard drive. I know that my main laptop hard drive is SDA, as I have a 64 gigabit USB stick, which is SDB. So I'm working with SDA. And now we're ready to partition our main hard disk. So we can use CF disk on dev, and for me, it's SDA. Have a completely blank hard disk. So we'll create a new partition. And I'm going to make this 500 megabytes. This is for the EFI boot partition, and some people do 200 megabits or 300 megabits or even 1 gigabyte. But a good balance is 500 megabits. You can have a couple kernels on there, and it gives you room to update your system later. We'll change SDA1's type to EFI system. And then on the rest of the free space, we'll make a new, and we'll use the maximum, and that type is okay at Linux file system. So just go over to write and type in yes. And now you have your partition set up. We can see that by typing ls block, and there's SDA 1 and 2. Now, we want to use LUKS encryption on the main partition, which is SDA 2, because SDA 1 is our boot partition. So we can do crypt setup -y -v for verbose, and then we're going to do a LUKS format, because we want to format this partition, and it's dev SDA 2. You have to type in yes in capital letters, and then we're going to give it a password. Oh yeah, baby, we're encrypting this joint. Booyah! Now, we need to open that encrypted device, so we'll use crypt setup open /dev SDA2, and we have to give it a name. I always name it LUKS root, because it's going to be our root partition. Enter the password. And now that partition is open, and we can see it with an ls block. Look at that, baby. SDA2, LUKS root, prip. Oh. Okay, time to format. The command is mkfs.ext4. We're just going to use ext4 here. And so now the LUKS encrypted device is at dev/mapper/ the name we gave it, which is LUKS root. We're also going to do an mkfs.fat and -f32 for fat32. On dev/dev SDA1. Okay. Now we're going to mount our devices. So we're going to mount dev/mapper/LUKS root to /mnt. Then we're going to make directory mnt/boot. This is going to be for our EFI partition. So we'll mount dev SDA1 to mount/boot. Oh ho ho baby. Now if we do an ls block, we can see that they're all mounted correctly. Our SDA1 boot partition is mounted to /mount/boot, and our root directory is mounted in /mount. What does that mean? Tell me! Well, it means we can do our initial Pacstrap. Pacstrap installs software to that mount location, Pacstrap/mnt, and it's just the very basics of our system. So we're going to do base Linux-firmware nano. That's a text editor, but I use Vim, so I'll install both nano and Vim. Nano's much easier to use, but if you want to get really Linuxy, you should just start using Vim. It's a little bit weird at first, but it's really powerful. Next, we're going to install either AMD-U code, and that's if you have AMD graphics, or Intel-U code. I have Intel graphics, so I'll use Intel-U code, but if you have AMD, go the other route. We'll let that install. And now we're going to generate an fstab. So we're going to do a gen fstab -U on /mnt, and then 2 brackets to /mnt, etc. fstab, just like that. We can view that if you'd like. Yeah, and there's our 2 partitions. Now for the big command, we're going to get into our system. It's called arch-chroot. What this does is it takes our /mnt directory and we're like gonna boot into it as if we were like booted into our arch system. arch-chroot /mnt. Now, do you notice the prompt changed? That's because we're chrooted in to our system. What does that mean? Well, now we can execute commands as if we were in our real Arch system, even though we're still installing it. Okay, first thing, let's make a swap file, baby. We're gonna use that fun dd command, if equals /dev/0. We're just gonna make a file here. Of equals /swap file. That's the file name, literally. So we're gonna make a file in the very root / directory named swap file. bs equals 1 capital M, count equals 16,384, status equals progress. And let's make that file. That's gonna create a 16 gigabit swap file, baby! Okay, now we need to do a chmod to change the permissions to 600 on /swap file. And that's gonna be our swap file. So we'll execute an mkswap command on /swap file and a swap on swap file. Notice we're able to execute those commands as if we were in the system because we're chrooted in. So we kind of are in the system. Now let's edit, etc. fstab. Oh, I might not have Vim installed here. No, I do. Now you could also use nano if you don't want to use the Vim text editor. So I'll turn on insert mode and I'm going to say this is our swap file. And we're going to do /swap file because that's what we named it. Tab, none, tab, swap, tab, default, tab 0, tab 0. And that sets up our swap file in the fstab. Let's save that. If you're in Nano, Control+X, and if you're in Vim, Escape:/WS. Now we can cat our fstab file, and we can see that our swap file is added. Oh yeah, moving right along. Okay, some locale and times setting stuff. We're gonna make a symlink ln-sf to user share zone info / and then your locale. Mine is America. And I'm in Los Angeles. And we're gonna say, etc. local time. So we're creating a symlink for our local time. Boom! We'll type in hw clock --sys to hc. Now we're gonna edit nano or vim, etc. locale.gen. And we're gonna go down here. I'm looking for en_US, but you have to select your country. So I'm going to go down here to EN-US, and I'm looking for the UTF-8 line. Look at that. There it is. So I'll remove the hash, either backspace in Nano or X in Vim, and then I'll save it. After that, we'll do a locale-gen command, and that'll pull in our locale file. Okay. Now, a few echoes. Let's echo capital lang equals, for me it's en_us.utf8. If you selected something different in the last step, change it up here, baby. We'll do that in etc. locale, oops, not .gen, but .conf. Ho. Then we're gonna echo keymap equals US for me. If it's different for you, we'll go ahead and do it. To etc. vconsole.conf. Oh, now let's make a host name. I'm gonna just echo arch, 2 brackets into etc. host name. That'll name our computer. So if you want a different name than arch, do it there. Now, nano or vim /etc/hosts. And in here, we're gonna do 127.0.0.1 tab, local host, boom, : 1 tab, local host, bang, 127.0.0.1 tab, your host name, which mine is arch, local domain, tab, and then your host name again, mine's arch, boom. You gotta follow along. You're gonna get this, right? Make it what you named yours. If you're following on verbatim, arch. Oh man. Okay, now we need to set the root password. How do we do that? Well, we are root, so just type passwd, boom, and make a password. Are you gonna remember it or are you gonna forget it? I know you're forgetting it. Ho ho ho! Our root password is set, boom! And now we need to install system packages. Since we're chrooted in, we're gonna use pacman-s and we're gonna do base devel. You don't need base devel, but I would suggest it. It gives you all the make commands. You're a hacker! Install base devel. Blues for Bluetooth stuff. Blues, utils. Cups for printing. Dialog. DOS. FS tools. EFI boot. MGR. Baby, you need that. Git and grub and Linux. Headers. mtools. These are all good things that you should install. Network manager dash applet. Network manager OS dash prober. Let's do pulse. Audio dash Bluetooth. Let's do reflector. We want those fast downloads. Wireless underscore tools. Oh, you know we need WPA underscore supplicant. XDG-user-ders. XDG-utils. All right, let's install all this. Oh, look, we got a couple grammatical errors. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna change network manager to network manager, and we're looking for XDG-utils. Okay, that should work. Oh yeah, give it a yes and install, baby. Oh, we're doing things, building a system. Let's go! Okay, now that pacman command is done, we're gonna vim, or nano if you're a loser, mkinitcpio.conf. Why are we editing this? Well, we need to add a hook for our LUKS encryption. So we'll go down here to hooks, this line right here, and after the block, we're gonna insert encrypt. And what this does is when your Arch system boots, it allows us to unlock our LUKS encrypted root partition. So we need to add the encrypt line just after block and just before file systems, baby. Let's save that file. Boom. And now we can run an mkinitcpio-p Linux. That's our Linux kernel. So let's remake that. Go! We're getting close, guys. We're about to install GRUB. Ho ho ho! Dude, you're making an Arch Linux install. Are you proud? I am. Don't worry about those possibly missing firmware lines. That's okay. All right. Now we're ready to install GRUB. So we can do grub-install, and we're gonna do --target equals x86 underscore 64-EFI. Then --EFI -directory equals /boot. Remember, that's where we mounted our EFI partition in /mount/boot, but now that we're chrooted in, it's /boot. Then we're gonna do --bootloader-id equals grub. Oh yeah, I'll put that command on screen, but let's do it. No error reported. Well, that's good. Now we're gonna do a grub mkconfig -o on /boot/grub/grub.cfg. Oh baby, we're close. All right, grub's installed. Boom. Now, we need to find our LUKS encrypted device so we can do a block ID. This is a little bit tough, but we're looking for the line that says type equals crypto underscore LUKS. And we want to find the UUID, not the part ID. So for me, if you go down there and you see /dev/SDA2, the UUID starts with BD3F7BF4. And that's what we're looking for. You're going to copy the UUID. I always whip out my iPhone and I take a picture of it, baby. So after you've taken a picture, we're going to do a nano or a vim /etc. /default/grub. Just like that. Now down here, we're going to look for grub command line Linux default. And ours says log level 3 space quiet. So we're going to insert right here, crypt device. equals UUID capitals, and then we're going to enter that UUID there. Remember, that's the line that said crypto_looks, and you have to make sure you get the UUID section. So mine was BD3 F7 BF4 A189 48C8-8E72 EFA72 CECF518, and then double check it. Looks good for me, baby. Then you do a colon, and remember before we named it arch-chroot? If you change that, make sure you put it here. But if you're following along like a good little girl, we can keep on going. Then a space and root equals /dev/mapper/arch-chroot. Now, this is setting up GRUB. So say we booted our system after we're finished with this install and we have an error. This is what we'll have to go in and change. But I think we have it right, and I hope you do too. So now let's save that file and clear the screen. Now we'll do a grub-mkconfig-o/boot grub.cfg. Okay, no issues. Man, we're getting really close. Just before we reboot our system, because we are done, let's do a couple systemctls. We're going to enable network manager. We're going to do a systemctl enable Bluetooth. We're going to do a systemctl enable capital network manager dash dispatcher .service. Ooh, let's add some users. We'll do a user add -mg wheel because we want sudo, and then make a name for yourself. And then let's do pass wd on that user. Okay, we got a user added. Let's do editor equals vim. Boom, or nano if you're a lamer. And then we're going to run visudo. Why? Because we're going to go down to the wheel line. Go down here. All right, we're looking for the wheel. Here it is. Is this the wheel line? Yeah. So let's pull that over there. We'll remove the hash, and then our user will have sudo access. Oh man, we are close. Our Arch vanilla install is complete. So now we can exit the chroot, and let's reboot now. So we don't need to access the BIOS. Hopefully, when we reboot right now, we're gonna get our very vanilla Arch Linux install on our computer because we're hackers. Go! All right, is it gonna work? Boom! So Arch Linux is installed, and we're at the GRUB menu. If we got everything right when we assigned our Lux drive to GRUB, this should boot. I'm gonna press enter. So this worked. It's accessing our Lux encrypted partition. If this failed for you though, when you're in GRUB over there, the last menu, the GRUB menu, you would push E, and you can edit that grub_command line_Linux_default line and get it correct. But since we did it perfectly, I'm gonna enter my password, and listen, Bob's your uncle, baby. This is our first boot. We should be able to log in as the user that we created, and let's test this out. Let's do a sudo ls, give it our password, and see if sudo's working. And it is. Success! Ho ho ho! But now we have an Arch Linux system with none of the fun stuff. Well, let's change that, baby. We're gonna get a GUI desktop environment. We're gonna get some other saucy stuff. We're gonna make this thing cool. Are you guys ready? We still don't have Wi-Fi unless you're connected via Ethernet, and then you don't have to worry about this. Notice that it's not WLAN 0 anymore. My Wi-Fi is WLP3SO. But we don't have to worry about that because now we have a command called nmtui. So let's activate a connection, and we'll select our Wi-Fi. We'll give it the password. And Bob's your uncle, baby. We're connected. Oh, nmtui is pretty cool. Now to test that, we can do a ping 8.8.8.8, and look at that, we're on the internet, baby. Let's give our vanilla Arch install some sauce. First thing we need to do is we need to either install Yay or Paru. Yay and Paru are Arch Linux installer helpers. They have more packages than are available in the Pacman. Pacman's the Arch Linux package manager. Let's move into our downloads directory, and we're gonna do a git clone https aur.archlinux.org/peru.git. And that'll clone into Peru. So we can cd into Peru, and we're going to run a make pkg-si. Baby! That'll take a minute, but let it go. We'll select the defaults. Now that Peru is installed, we can cd ... out of there, and we can rm-rf the Peru directory. Why? Because now we have the Peru command at our disposal. You might not know what that means, but let's just keep going on, baby! Now, we're going to do a sudo pacman, which is the package manager, -s, and if you're on Intel, you're going to do xf86-video-intel. Now, if you're on AMD, you'll do AMD GPU. Or, if you're on NVIDIA, you would do NVIDIA, also NVIDIA-utils, and NVIDIA-settings. But make sure you Google that, because I'm not on NVIDIA, so I just need Intel, baby! xf86-video-intel. I'll throw up the Arch Wiki website, https://wiki.archlinux.org/title/NVIDIA, so you can learn about your GPU if that's what you have. Oh yeah. Now, let's change our GRUB theme, because it can be really cool. We're going to do a git clone --depth1 https gitlab.com/vandal-byte/dedsec-grub-theme.git. These are really stinking cool. These make our GRUB themes graphical and really neat. So we'll cd into the dedsec grub theme. We're going to sudo python3 dedsec-theme.py-install. Now, you can go to the website. I'm going to flash it up on the screen and see all the different pictures of these, but I'm just going to pick one. Should I go for brainwash? Fuckery? Firewall. There you go. I'm going to pick the 1440p, and I want it in color. Play around, have fun, see what you like. Oh yeah. You could rm-rf dedsec grub theme, but I'm going to keep mine because I might want to change it in the future. Now, we are completely done with our vanilla Arch Linux install. However, let's do a reboot and see the fruits of our labor. We can do a sudo reboot now. And let's check out this cool grub theme awesomeness. Look at that, guys. So that's our dedsec grub theme right there. Looks way better than before, right? Okay, rock stars. First of all, we're going to install Plasma. I know Hyperland is on your mind, but let's get a normal desktop environment first. Oh yeah, baby! To install the entire Plasma, we'll do sudo pacman-s plasma-meta. This will install all of the Plasma KDE packages. We'll select the defaults. And let's let that go. Man, it's a whole bunch of stuff, baby. Are you guys having fun yet? We are almost there, dog. Okay, that's done. If you want all of the Plasma packages, we can do a sudo pacman-s kde-applications-meta. This installs all of the packages. If you want to select exactly what you want, you can install kde-applications, or even Plasma, or even Plasma-desktop, and then you can select everything you want and everything you don't want. But I want to install it all, baby. We'll take the defaults and let it go! Okay. We'll need to do a sudo systemctl enable SDDM. We can do a sudo systemctl status SDDM. Okay, and let's try a sudo reboot now. Oh yeah, are we gonna boot into Plasma? Let's find out, baby! Okay, here's our SDDM login. So we forgot one important thing. Let's open up a Plasma terminal. And let's fix our Plymouth theme. We're going to move into downloads. And we're going to do a paru-s Plymouth-theme-optimus-git. We'll let that install, baby. This is going to be our theme. Okay. Now we're going to do a paru-s for Plymouth-git. Let it ride, baby. Are you guys having fun? We're gonna make a really cool system together. Arch, Linux, nerds, Plymouth. So we'll have to remove Plymouth. Beep, boop. Okay, we're all done there. Boop. Now let's do a sudo nano or vim, whatever you like, /etc mkinitcpio.conf. Why? Before encrypt on the hooks line, let's insert Plymouth. That's going to be a cool graphical Lux unlock thing. So let's save that file. Beep, boop. We also have to do a sudo nano or vim on etc default grub. And on the grub command line _Linux default line, we're going to have to add quiet and splash. Actually, we're going to do it over here. We'll go back here to quiet. That was already there. And we're going to insert splash to add the splash screen. Baby. We'll do a sudo grub mkconfig -o/boot/grub/grub.cfg. Man, we're really building stuff over here. Oh yeah. And finally, to set our Plymouth theme, we're going to do a sudo Plymouth set default theme -r optimus. That's my favorite one. And if you want a different theme, well, go search, man. This is my how-to. Beep. Okay, I think that should do us. Now let's do a sudo reboot now and see if everything is there. Let's go! There's our grub. And look at that. Look at our Plymouth theme for our Lux encryption unlock. Baby! Man, that's pretty hot, right? Get it? And here you are, dog. I can show you one more thing, because for that SDDM login, we can get a little cooler. There's a better Plasma 6 integration. I think it's somewhere in settings. Let's check that out. We can go over here. We can click settings. We can search for SDDM. Okay. We can select Breeze and apply. And now let's log out and see if that looks better. Look at that, homeboy. Now SDDM looks better. Bro, we just installed a killer Arch Linux installation. Now, if you want Hyperland, search all of my videos and you'll find out how to do so.